So today I just thought we'd take a look at this Ryobi 40V brushless self-propelled mower, and this is the model RY401012VNM, and I got this off Facebook Marketplace for $20 because they could not get the motor to run. So I do have a battery here that's charged up to test it. We'll just see what it does. Now this battery is one I worked on before, so we'll see how it does. I've had a lot of issue with the Ryobi 40V stuff as mentioned in the past, so sometimes after you work on these batteries they'll start giving issues again. Well, we got the battery in, we got our safety key, the connections look good and it's fully inserted. It's looking, well, it was looking promising, but then the light went off and the brake come on. It does not want to start back. And of course, to mention a few things here, we know that this chute in the back, either the plug has to be inserted or the actual grass catcher itself has to be in place. There's a little inductive sensor here where this little bar is. We also know that our handles have to be fully extended and locked in place, and some of these actually have a switch where it hinges, where the handle hinges. Now this one has been worked on and some parts are missing, and I can't help that since I bought it as is and broken. We are showing fully charged on the pack. We're just going to reinsert it and see if the fault to clear. And still nothing. Oh well. We'll take it out. Well, we could have just pulled a safety key, but just look over and just make sure there's nothing binding with the blade or anything, nothing with the motor. And the motor actually feels really good and really smooth. You can tell a BLDC has that magnetic feel to the rotation. You can feel the permanent magnets in there. There's no play in the shaft. The bearings actually feel very, very good. So one thing about these Ryobi batteries, there's one way to fix them. Well, yeah. So in all seriousness, I've shared before how I have run some 40V Ryobi stuff in the past. The battery just kept giving me issues no matter how many times I've worked on or replaced cells or tried to reset the BMS board. This is just a little bit different setup here, but just to show you here what I have is a modified battery, for example, like this. And it does take a good while to take the board off and remove this little plate and actually put it on the upper plate. You know, solder some wires on and then solder around just to keep that plate, or you could glue it if you like. Then I just got a little insulator, a rubber pad with some tape just to make sure those terminals don't come into contact with anything at the moment here. So what I have here is a 36V cheap battery out of a hoverboard like scooter. This is a 4 amp hour, so this is 20 2 amp hour cells to give us a full 40 volts. So you could use something like 2 drill batteries, as I showed in the previous video, to give you close to that 36 to 40 volts as well. The main thing is you don't pull the battery too low, correct? Because we do know that the Ryobi 40V has the Mosfets internally, and they do shut the pack down. But there's two things here, so we want to worry about over discharging the pack, and we want to check and see if the mower will run with just 2 wires, so just plus and minus. So as we see here, the battery itself has 4 connections, and more importantly, the mower has 3 connections as well. It has one of the temperature sensors close to the center here. But does it need it to work since we only have our 2 wires here? Haha. So there we go, that was awesome. That's pretty easy to make that work. Something destined for the junkyard, and hey, we can get some more use out of it. That's awesome. But we have one more thing to check, and that's the self-propel feature. Yeah, when I engage the self-propel feature, it sounds pretty rough. Something's grinding there, so let's pull the safety plug. Let's take a closer look here. Just going to pull this cap. that really feels good. And this center shaft is just stationary like an idler. We see our shaft here that actually moves like on a ratchet assembly or like a clutch. And that's just the idler in the center there. This is a 9/16 and it's right hand, so lefty loosey. We'll spin the nut right off, and in a matter of seconds we can inspect our ring gear that looks in fantastic shape. So it's just on that idler like we mentioned, going around to a little spur gear or a drive gear. It looks like a centered gear, and I'm going to remove this external snap ring. Sorry, it's hard to get out of the way of the camera here, but this is our little centered gear that has a little catches like 120 degrees apart, and it just simply rides on that shaft, and that little roll pin just slips back and forth as the dogs catch. And that's just a very simple like sprag type clutch. Just going to put this all back together. All that's working perfectly. And I have checked the other side, and the other side was the same. It was great. It was in great condition. So now let's look at the motor and the actual little clutch and the little transmission right here. See, it's got like a lever and a spring, so that's probably coming from that cable, I would assume. But both sides are moving like it's either a U-shape or a piece of wire going across. I really can't see it well, but we can tell that it's moving. It's probably similar to a drill, for example, how you can change the clutch or speeds on the little transmission or gearbox in a drill. It's probably the same way. So let's take a look at how this cable is working. And this issue might just be the way they remove some parts here. In this cable, the way this lever works, it should be pulling that to engage it. When we pull our lever and hold it down, so what I can do here is I can just pull out on this wire and this like throttle cable together here and just keep some tension on it. So let's see how it does when I start it, and then I'll pull and put some pressure on it or some tension on it. And there we go. That's all that's wrong with the self-propel. This is just a little up close shot of it here, so I can just tie wrap this or whatever. So this is what the transmission assembly looks like. This is just a picture from one off of eBay for sale at the moment, and you get to see it out, and you get to see the little cable connection on top there. But if we look up closer here, and I'll throw a little drill clutch up here and gearbox, you see the little lever here. That's what it reminds me of. It's like a lever mechanism there that you can't see well. And by the way, this is what the OEM price is at one location. It doesn't have a picture, so I can't guarantee it, but it does say that it fits that model. And as well, here's the controller and motor assembly. It's over $200, so you see why I was glad to pay 20 bucks for it. Even if I didn't get it working, it was worth it. So I'm glad to get this working today. It'll be handy in the backyard, just cutting around my shed, and I can leave my ego in my garage. And the things I mentioned here may only work for this model. For example, the low battery cutout works fine on this model, and at 30 volts the controller itself cut out, so it actually protected the battery without adding a low cutout. But again, this model may be the only one that's like that. I can't guarantee any others, and this is the only one I've worked on. So I hope you found this video helpful today. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to have some links down in the video description of some tools and other items that I like to use on my workbench and that I find very helpful. Any of those links you click on help support the channel because they're affiliate links, and I greatly appreciate it. So thanks so much for watching, and God bless.